Hey everybody, welcome back again. In this episode, as stated previously, we will be implementing a delete request into our front end. So we would like to maybe have a little button here that says delete. When we click on it, the item should automatically disappear from the DOM while simultaneously hitting our route on the back end that we wrote previously. So let me go back there. Should be hitting this delete route, needs to receive the movie ID, and it will do everything else and send back a message letting us know it happened. We're going to leave it as is for that as well, and we'll talk about why. But this is the one that we're wanting to use for this episode. So on the front end here, I did add a little bit of CSS, as you can see, to the form. If you'd like to get it yourself, it is right here. It is these three style declarations and this one class. So go ahead and pause if you'd like it and grab these four declarations for yourself. All right, let's jump into this. So what do we need to happen? Well, we would like to have every item have their own button. So when I'm creating my React app, where do I put this button so that every item showing up in the DOM automatically gets their own? You know, if I put it here, there's only going to be one delete button. So I want to go down into my movie component and introduce a button here. So I'll say button delete. And I'm going to give it that class name that I have from the CSS of delete button. Okay, let's see how that looks. There we go, a nice little delete button. Each one has their own. Now the tricky part. How does this delete button know to delete this? And how does this delete button know how to delete this? I'll give some of it away. It's going to be one function. So how does every item call that function in its own special way? How does it do it so only itself is deleted? And this comes back to a subject we talked about a little while ago, but the real need for IDs when we have a database. You know, when we have a database, we're going to have IDs. Right now we're making our own, but this is how we're making all this work. If you recall, when we made the endpoints, the delete request is to /movies/ the ID of the movie that needs to be deleted. As long as we get that information in our route or to our backend will do what it's programmed to do and what we've tested it and proven that it does. So that is our goal. We get the ID of the movie that's clicked on to this route. It will take care of the rest, and then we just need to update state. Well, since our movie's state is being maintained in app, this is where we need to update state. So just like get movies and add movie, we're going to write our delete function here as well. So we will say function delete movie. It will expect a movie ID. And again, this is just a parameter. I can call this anything. I can call it _ID if that's easier to read. But for now, I'm going to do movie ID. And this will do an Axios.delete request to, and I'm using backticks here so I can import some variables. I'll say /movies/ and then import the movie ID. Right, so this is crafting that endpoint that's going to take this movie ID and remove it from the database. All right, so if you recall the .then, the response that it will bring, if we console log response, we'll probably just see that message successfully deleted, but that's fine. We're going to do this to test and make sure. And console log the error if there is one. Now, just like the add movie, it's going to be declared up here, but we need to call it down in our movie component. So we need to get this delete movie function down to every movie component that's generated so we can tie it into this button and give the ID back. So here where we're mapping out movies, I'm going to put these on their own lines just to clean this up a bit. All right, so movie's going to get all of its movie data. It's going to get a key, and it's also going to get a function called delete movie equal to our delete movie function. Okay. So it's passed down. Let's go down to our movie now. We're going to have a props.delete movie that needs to occur when this button's clicked. So I'm going to split this up and say on click should be props.delete movie. Now think for a second here. If I were to call this function just like that, what is that saying to do? Well, if you recall, that says call this function immediately. Don't wait for the on-click. And we want to wait for the on-click for sure. We only want to delete this if they click the delete button. So we're going to pass in an anonymous function here. so that the onClick will call this, which in turn will then call our function here. And this allows us to do a pretty fun thing. Each movie, as it's mapped out, gets its own title and genre and ID. So each component already knows who it is. It knows what ID it belongs to. So we can, in here, just pass the ID back up. So one more time to reiterate this, we're mapping out all movies, and each movie is receiving their title, genre, and ID individually. They're also each receiving a reference to this delete movie function that's expecting an ID. So down in our movie component, where we tie this function to our button, we are going to pass in as an argument the ID of the movie whose button was clicked. This will pass the ID up, the ID will be received, and the delete request will go out. And we're going to console log the response and see if we're getting a successful response here. So let's go back to our browser and click delete. All right, that's a good sign. Successfully deleted movie. Now I'm just going to refresh my front end here and see if it disappears. And it does. So it was removed from the database. If I clear these other two and refresh, we've only got one left. So we are updating the database. We're updating the state of our backend. Now we need to update the state of our front end to match that and show the user that their action was performed. Now there's a few ways you could do this. We could, response.data is a message. We could have it pop up in a little modal if we'd liked. But we're going to keep this simple and just simply update our movies array with set movies so that automatic re-render occurs. So let me get rid of this console log and open this up to set movies. And how are we going to do this? Well, what data do we need to remove this from the array? And what are we going to use to remove it with? You may think, splice it out or something like that. But no, that would be, mutating state directly. We always want to craft the new state off of the previous state if previous state is required. So we're going to say previous movies, which is what set movies will give us as a callback. And we'll say with those previous movies, return a new array, but we want that new array to not include the deleted movie, namely the movie that has this movie ID. So what, if you can think to yourself, what is a array method or higher order array method that will loop through an array and return a smaller array? And I'm avoiding saying the word to give it away, but yes, we'll want to use filter. Filter will return a new array and will allow us to filter out the things we don't want in the new state. So set movies is going to take the previous movies and do a dot filter. And for each movie in that array, we only want to return the movie if its ID is not equal to the movie ID that we just asked it to delete. And this right here, the fact that we had to pass the ID to this delete movie function is the reason why I wasn't concerned that all this was sending back was a message. If we wanted to, we could send back the deleted object, so we could use filter that way, but our front end already knew which one was supposed to be deleted. We already gave the delete function the movie ID to remove. So after the backend's updated, we then update the front end by just filtering out the movies that have that ID, namely the one. And this will return a new array that will just not include the one that we asked to remove. Great. Let's try it out and see if it works. So come back here, we'll delete, and there we go. Everything is updating appropriately. If I refresh, our GET request is going back out and nothing's coming, so our fake database has been effectively deleted for now. All right, so that one's a little bit more straightforward, less to build than the add movie, but the passing around of IDs is a little tricky at first. You'll get it though. Definitely practice with this, implement this into your own assignments. And the key to this really is making sure that when we call the function, we're passing in the ID of the one that we want to delete, which is easy since React already kind of enforces us to build our own components for everything. So even if we have 10 of these, we'll have 10 different IDs, and depending on the button we click, the right one gets deleted, sent up, and sent in the request. All right, again, practice with this, and when you're ready, let's move on to the last request, the update. We'll see you there.